Hello Queens and Kings, my name is Thandeka Shabangu. Welcome to my channel. If it is the first time here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Welcome to today's tutorial where we'll be doing lovely, gorgeous earrings. Earrings are my thing. I can have the most plainest outfit, but my earrings, they need to stand out. That's what I believe in. Okay, so what materials we'll be using for this earrings? We're going to be using 11 knot check beads. We're only going to be using 3 colors, so you can decide on what color palettes you want to use. The colors I'll be using are going to be green, white, and pink. It's a nice shiny pink. Yeah. And then we're going to be using your needle, a needle that is suitable for 11 knot sized beads. And then we're also going to be using our nylon thread, 2-ply nylon thread. So, and then we're not only going to have one part for this tutorial. Hopefully, we're going to have 3 parts, but I can only say this after the second part. That's when I can tell Uguta how many parts we're going to need. But my goal is 3 parts. So, let's get started. This is the earring we'll be working on. So our plan of action, we're going to start for this tutorial, we'll be using 2 kinds of stitches. Ladder stitch and brick stitch. Those are the 2 stitches that we'll be using for this earring. So our plan of action, we're going to start at the center of our green diamond, and then we move all the way with our brick stitch until we get to the tip of our diamond. And then once we're done, we will move down and then complete the rest of the 3 diamonds. But that we can't do that in one video, but that will be our plan of action for the entire tutorial. So I have my needle and my nylon thread. Ne? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make 2 knots. I'm using a single thread, meaning I'm not going to join the 2 ends of my thread together. Instead, I'm just going to take only one and make a knot from there. So this is another method that you can use to make your knots. Ne? Here we go. There we go. So now we're going to start with our ladder stitch. You start with your 2 beads. The thread that I'm using is 2-ply nylon thread. So this is the ladder stitch. No? So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to insert it from the bottom to the top of the first bead. Then I pull. So when I pull, I make sure that my 2 beads are next to each other like this. They have to be side by side. Then I go back to my next bead. Then I pick up another green bead. Sorry for that. Make sure that your beads are side by side. Then you go up. So before you pick up another bead, when you're using the ladder stitch, always make sure that your thread is poking out from the last bead, because it happens that it's at the center, so you have to maneuver your thread so that to make sure that it's protruding from the last bead. Okay, take your needle from the bottom, move up. Like in this instance, in this case, my thread is protruding from my 3rd bead and not the last bead. So you have to manipulate your thread to make sure that it's poking out from the last bead. So as you can see, now we can add another bead. Add your other bead, and then you move down. So this is how your beads are going to be. This is an example of your ladder stitch. Ne? We're going to continue. So you have your 6 green beads. Now you're going to add 2 white beads. But remember, you add one at a time. So this is my first white bead. Now I add my second white bead. I'm going to try my best because we're working with small beads. I'm going to try my best to make sure that my fingers don't hide the beads. Ne? So we have 6 green beads, 2 white. Now what you do on your left, you do on your right. You're also going to add your 6 green beads. My second green bead. My third green bead. Also, queens and kings, ensure that you pull your thread nice and tight. Ne? Our fourth green bead. Then we add our fifth green bead. This is how it looks like. Then we're going to add our last green bead. Okay, so this is our first row. We used our ladder stitch. This is the side. Ne? So now we're going to start on our second row. Now for our second row, we are using brick stitch. Okay, so you're going to pick up 2 green beads. You see at the top of our beads we have connecting bridges. This is the first bridge and this is the second bridge. So you're going to take your needle and set it under the second bridge. Then you pull your thread. Then you take your needle, you insert it into this bead. Then you pull your thread. Okay, so this is how it's looking like now. Add your green beads again. So now we are doing our brick stitch. Take your needle, insert it under the bridge. Then you pull your thread, and then you insert your needle into your bead in an upwards direction, and then you pull. That's how you go about. Needle under the bridge, and then up. Okay, then you take your green again, needle under the bridge, so this is how it is. So now, because this is going to be so this is the direction in which we're moving in. So remember, we had our 2 white beads. Now we're going to have 1 white bead. We're moving in that direction. So you're going to add 1 white bead. We'll come back to address the white bead. The white bead should not panic. We'll be back. The white diamond, sorry. So this is the tip of our white diamond. But for this video, our goal is to complete the tip of our green diamond. So now you have your 1 white bead. You go back to your green beads. So you take your needle, insert it under the bridge, and then upwards. Pick up your needle, under the bridge, and then into your bead. Under the bridge and into your bead. So you're going to have 6 green beads after your 1 white bead. Under the bridge and into your bead. So I'm just going to do this off camera, and then I'll come back when you're starting a new row. Okay, so I've worked until I got to the corner. So now I'm going to pick up 2 beads. First loop, second loop. I insert my needle under the second loop like this. Then I pull my needle. My 2 beads are going to be sitting next to each other nicely. Then this is how it is. Then I pick up 1 green bead, take my needle under the next loop, then into the bead. I pick up my needle, I pick up 1 bead, sorry, and I insert my needle under the loop, so you can see. Then I pull my needle. And then from this point, I take my needle, I insert it into that bead in an upwards direction. So this is what I'm going to do all the way until I get to the corner. So because I want us to do a lot, cover a lot of work in this first part video, there are parts that I'm just going to skip, especially for this part where we'll be adding our green beads. So for each line, each row that we'll be working on, I won't film each and every line. Some parts some lines I'm going to finish them off camera. So you keep on working. As you can see, this is a nice stitch, queens and kings. So I'm going to do this until I get to the corner. Okay, so I move all the way until I got to the corner. Now we're going to start a new row. So for this part, because we're making a diamond, we want to have a sharp edge. We want to have a sharp edge. This is the direction we're moving on. Our target is to get here. So when you're at the corner, you're going to pick up 2 beads, ne? And this is the trick of creating that sharp thingamajiggy. Of creating that sharp thingamajiggy. You insert your needle into the second loop. 1, 2. The second loop. You skip the first one and then you insert your needle under the second loop like this. We skipped the first one and then you insert it under the second loop. That's how you're going to have that sharp thingy-majiggy at the end. You work on it at the corners of your nakunja. Hey, I'm losing words. Thingy-majiggis and nakunja. Hi. You know, my family from my father's side, they talk like that. My uncle will say, hey, unakunja, bega nakunja. And you're like, first of all, who's this person? What was this person doing? So if he forgets, he just replace that word with nakunja. So all verbs and nouns, he replaces it with nakunja. So you have to think and join the pieces together, join the puzzles together, and then you realize, oh, what is he talking about? You must follow, you must concentrate. Okay, so I'm going to do this row off camera. It's the same process, queens and kings. You insert your needle under the loop and into the bead. Needle under the loop and into the bead. Okay, needle under the loop and into the bead. Needle under the loop into the bead. This is the one at the corner. Under the loop. This is the last loop, ne? Under the loop and into the what? The bead. Then you pull. So this is how you create the sharp thingy-majiggies. You create it at the corner. You just pick up your 2 beads and then you skip the first loop and then insert your needle under the second loop. Take my needle, insert it under the second loop, then into the bead like this. So I'm going to do this row off camera and then I'm going to come back when we're doing the second row. The next row, sorry. Okay, so I worked off camera until I got to the corner. So if you notice, we're getting that shape, that sharp thingy-majiggy shape, ne? So, as I've said this before, this is how you create the shape. You create it when you start a new row. You pick up your 2 beads, so, and then this is your first loop, your second loop. You're going to skip the first loop and then you insert your needle under the second loop. Under the second loop. That's how you create the sharp thingy majigi. Okay, and then you continue until you get to the corner. So to save time, I'll do this off camera. I always say that and then I end up doing it on camera. Okay, let me stick to my words. I'm gonna do this off camera. Okay, I moved. I just want to show you how I finish off my line, my row. It's the same thing, the same thing. Needle under the loop and into the bead. Same, 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 same. Then you're starting a new row. You pick up 2 beads. Pick up 2 beads. You skip the first loop, then insert your needle under the second loop and into the bead. There we go. Then you continue with your row, with your respective row. It is the same concept. Just keep adding your green beads until we get to the sharp thingy-majiggy. Yeah, so I'm going to do this off camera, then I'll come back. Starting in your row, you pick up your 2 beads. That's how you create the sharp part. You create it when you start your row. You pick up your 2 beads, skip the first, second, and then insert. That's how you create the sharp part. And then as we move on with this pattern, we will look into how do we extend our the sides. How to extend the sides. That's the tricky part when it comes to making this earring. Creating that part where we're extending the diamond. But we'll get into it, queens and kings. Once you see it, you'll see good. It's very simple. It's doable. Yeah. This part that we're currently doing but it's nice to learn the skill because this will help you when you're making a lot of earrings in the future. Insert my needle into. That's what I love about beading. What you learn from something else, you can be able to apply it when you're doing something and a different project. The skill of beading is very broad. You pick up your 2 beads, skip first, insert into the second loop. It's very broad. What you learn from one, you can take that skill and create something else. The skill you learn when you're making a belt, you can apply the very same skill when you're making a necklace, you know. So that's what makes beading fun and enjoyable. There we go. I keep saying off camera, off camera. Okay, so I'm going to do this off camera until we get to 2 beads. Until we have 2 beads at the top, that's when I'll come back. So here, it's the same story, queens and kings. Pick up 2 beads, skip the first, insert your needle into the second loop. So I'll do that until we get to 2 beads. Okay, so this is where we are. At the top, we only have 2 loops. Ne? So you do the same, you pick up your 2 beads, skip the first loop, and then insert your needle under the second loop. The second and the last loop in this row. Then you take your needle, insert it into one bead. There we go. So we have 2 beads at the top. Now you're going to pick up 1 bead, because it's like a pyramid or a triangle. You have 2, now you have to have 1 bead. You take your needle, you insert it into the bead, not into the loop, into the bead. As you can see, and ta-da, this is how it is. Now you're going to make a knot to secure it. Insert your needle into that space. You create a loop, then insert your needle into that loop that you created, and you pull nice and slowly. Yes. Going to do the same process again. Pull your needle nicely. Okay, this is how it is. So now the goal is for our thread to be pointing out at this. So you're going to take your needle, insert it into the beads, these beads that are on the outside, all the way. All the way. Let me do this off camera. Okay. Inserted my needle into the first 2 beads. And then you do that to the rest. Now only 1 bead left. You pull it. Then into that 1 bead. Okay. So you've done the half. Now you're going to do this other half. Okay. So this is where we currently are now. Moving forward, we're moving into that direction. Okay, so meaning the white at the center will have to extend and the green will have to decrease. Okay, so we're expanding our white and we're decreasing our green. Because for this row, we only had, in the previous row, only had 2 white beads. That means in the next row, we are going to have 3 white beads. In the other one, 4 white beads. Kanjalo kanjalo. And so on and so forth. Okay. I have to cut this thread. It's confusing me. So you do the same method that you were doing, where you pick up your 2 beads at the corner, then you insert your needle into the second loop. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up 1 white bead, then I pick up another white bead, and another white bead. Now for the rest of the row, you're going to pick up your green beads. So you're going to pick up green beads until you get to the end. Now I'm going to do this off camera, and then we'll meet again on the next row. Okay, now we're starting a new row. Going to pick up 2 beads. First, second, set your needle into the second loop. Then you pull. Under the loop and into the bead. Under the loop and into the bead. Now what you're going to do now, you're going to pick up your white beads. In the previous row we had 3 white beads, meaning here we're going to add 4 white beads. Our second white bead. Third white bead. And our fourth white bead. Okay, so now after you've added your 4 white beads, you go back to your green beads. Starting the next row, you're going to pick up your 2 green beads. So in the previous row we had 4 white beads, meaning for this row we're going to have 5 white beads, because we're going to, each row we're extending our white beads. So I've added the 3 green beads. Now we're going to add our 5 white beads. Oopsie. Third white bead. Then our 4th white bead. Now it's going to add our 5th white bead. Okay. Then you go back to your green bead. So you're going to add your 3 green beads. I'm going to do this off camera and then I come back. Okay, so this is the new row. You pick up your 2 green beads, keep 1, 2, set your needle into the second loop, under the second loop, sorry. I've mentioned this before, prepositions are not my strongest point. I am not good with prepositions. When it comes to the English grammar, I is not make sure. So in the previous row we had 5 white beads. Now we are going to add 6 white beads. And here we are. We have 6 white beads. Then you're going to add your green beads off camera. Then I'll come back. This is how it is. Now, for your 2 beads, you're going to pick up 1 green and 1 white bead. Set your needle into the second loop. 1 green, 1 white. And look at it. It's placed nice and beautifully. So, in the previous row, you had 6 white beads. So now you're going to add your 7 white beads. I'm going to do this off camera. Okay. So now we're going to start a new row. We're going to only have white beads. So this is going to be the last row that we're going to do. You're going to pick up 2 white beads, skip into the next loop, the second loop, under the bridge and into the bead. Then you pick up another bead. So you're going to add only white beads. Only white beads all the way. So I'm going to do this off camera. This is the last row that we'll be doing. So you do all the way until you get to the end. Okay, so I've added all the beads. In total for this row, we have 8 white beads from one corner to the other. So on our next part, we will be expanding our white diamond. Remember, so it's going to be a different technique where we're going to be expanding our diamond and then decreasing our diamond. Here, we were decreasing into the sharp thingy majiggy. But now we're going to see how do we go about to expand, to create that V shape. Ne? So this is our inspiration. So we have to see how do we go about when we want to expand our diamond. So for the next part, Queens and Kings, will explore that avenue. We'll see how do we go about. So this is where we're going to stop, Queens and Kings. I love you guys so much. Remember to love yourself, respect yourself, honor yourself, and have fun. If you love the content that you're seeing, please consider subscribing. See you on the next video. Bye.